Hello Internet and welcome back to Parsing John. This is going to be the second Greek video taking on John chapter 1 verses 1 through 5. In our previous Greek video we took a look at verses 1 and 2, went through them, talked about the controversy over the latter half of verse 1 between what we in the videos are calling the Trinitarians and, again, not to be mean, but the polytheists. In this video we're going to take a look at verses 3 and 4. I don't believe we're going to have enough time for verse 5. I've got a rubric over here. After we take a look at verse 5 in this video and verse 5 in the Latin, the next video in the series is going to be comparing the Greek and Latin texts together. All right, let's get to the text. First things first, read it aloud. Panta dautu ageneto kai choris autu ageneto ude hen. Ho gegonen en autoi zoe ein kai he zoe ein tophos ton anthropon. That's probably where we're going to stop. Now, first things first, when you translate a text from one language into another, especially when it comes to Greek or Latin, you want to find the verb. Panta, definitely not a verb. Diautu, strange thing going on there we'll talk about in a moment. That's not the verb. Ageneto, we have our verb. We've got our eto ending here, which is going to be an aorist ending and middle. So we can go ahead and write that in. Aorist, middle. And it's not going to be subjunctive, it's indicative. And it is third person and singular. And its basic meaning translates to became or made, was made. Right, so we should be looking for a third person singular subject. However, in this sentence, that's not what we're going to end up finding. We have a curiosity of what Greek does, which I'm not aware of other languages that do this, but where we have a plural noun that takes a singular verb, and that's going to be panta up here. Panta is a neuter. Write that one last. Neuter, and it is plural, either nominative or accusative. This word does not need a direct object, and this prepositional phrase here cannot be the subject, which means that panta has to be our subject, even though it is plural. Greek is curious in that it's neuter nouns, as I've already said that. You get the idea. And this word up here means all. Just as the instance with our demonstrative up here, hutos, Greek can just throw a word out there like that, and it doesn't need the noun that is being modified to appear anywhere in the sentence. English doesn't allow that. Previously, we included the word one in there, ultimately referring to him, which is going to show up later down here, if I remember. We're going to stick in the word, a valid word, things. All things became. We would need to change this to were made as our to option. We are going to go with this one as it is the primary meaning, but this is still valid. Okay, all things became diautu. Now, what's going on with this, if you're not aware, is this thing called elision. I'm going to write that, visible still. Elision. What elision is in Greek is, and it also happens in Latin, when certain vowels appear at the end of a Greek word and the next word starts with a vowel, quite frequently, when the meaning of the word would be clear to the Greek reader, that last letter elides, it drops out, and we instead, in our modern text in Greek, we put this little mark there to show that it vanished. It's either usually going to be an epsilon, an alpha, the diphthong oi, something along those lines. In this case, we have dia, and this one is going to take, this preposition is taking genitive, autu, we have the genitive singular ending there. Singular and genitive. And we want to know what this refers back to. So we go previously in our last sentence, and not going to be that, not going to be that. Utos, this one is what autu is referring to. And this is where we're going to use the word him. Through him. All things through him became. And course, we've got another preposition here, and it goes all the way through autu. It can't include a verb in a prepositional phrase. So we're going to close off the parentheses right there. And agenatu is a repetition of this one. We don't need to parse it again. Instead, we just draw that over and repeat became. And we know we're looking for a singular subject unless we have something else like panta. And we look through here. Prepositional phrase can't be it. The coordinating conjunction can't be it. Ude can't be it. And here we have a word that can stand in as our subject. Hen. Now, if you know the dictionary entry for hen, you know we have the three forms, each for genders. Ace, I think it's aspirated. I might be wrong about that. Yeah. Hen. And these three mean the number 1. So hen is clearly our nominative singular form. And it is neuter. Technically, it could be an accusative, since neuter in Greek, the nominative and the accusative almost always match. I can't think of actually any instance where they don't. But just as in our previous sentence, ageneto does not want a direct object, so we're going to use this as our subject. 1. Now we can translate ude, not. And just as with panta, we're going to include the word things, or thing singular here, to make it more clear in English. This is a valid move when you translate. And now we can come back to our prepositional phrase. Chorus is taking the genitive we know from our ending right there. So plus G, genitive singular. It's going to be referring back to autu, and autu itself refers back to hutos, which in turn refers back to this thing right here. So through him. Chorus means without. And without him became not one thing. This should actually be a comma. Right. Here we have a relative pronoun. We need to write those forms down there. We've got hos is the masculine. He is the feminine. And then ho, strangely, is our neuter form. So neuter, nominative, singular. Repetition of that. We would say either what or which. We're going to go with which today, because the context in English is probably going to want that one. Good going. Here we have a new verb, a new form of this same verb here, and as we parse that, we see it's got n, which is a third-person singular ending, and it's not going to be aorist this time. We know because we got this extra gamma at the front. This is an instance of reduplication. That's what happens in the Greek when we get to the perfect and pluperfect tenses. So it's either got to be perfect or pluperfect. This isn't a normal pluperfect ending, so we know it has to be perfect. It's going to be active and indicative. And this one means has become. And that O should be an E. All right, all of verse 3 so far. Then all things through him became, and without him became not one thing, which has become. Verse 4, prepositional phrase. These two don't match, so we want to close the prepositional phrase there. Got ein, a repetition of this one. Just translate that. Was, what was, why the new subject. We have a first declension feminine nominative singular noun. It's singular feminine, and it means life. And there's no article before it. Life was what? Life was n plus the dative, just like up here. Okay, we've got sub iota again. And that's going to be dative and singular. And what does this refer back to? Well, it's going to refer back to essentially the same thing that this one and this one and this one have. So we're going to repeat him. In him, life was. We're not going to do this. It's because it's not a name. Well, it'll come. More of those will come later. And hey, zoe, ein, repetition. again, was the life. Actually, since we have the article, yeah, we'll come back later. And the life was to phos, ton anthropon. To phos, if we look at our, they're there. This is either going to be the accusative singular masculine or the nominative or accusative singular neuter. Since we have a linking verb here, we know that we want either a prepositional phrase or a predicate nominative. Predicate. So accusative doesn't make any sense. We also don't have a dative, which could give us a dative of possession. So that's not there. Has to be nominative singular. And phos is a neuter word. And it is, in fact, acting as a predicate. And life was the light. And now we just have our final two words. Tone here is a accusative, not accusative, genitive plural article. Keep that, sorry. Genitive plural. What the gender of that is, we can't tell from the genitive articles because they are all exactly the same. Instead, we have to go to our noun. And since we see this ending here, own, and it doesn't have a circumflex accent over it, we know that it is, at the very least, not feminine. The meaning of this word is, in the plural, men, so it's not going to be neuter. That leaves the only option being masculine. Now we can just repeat that right there. And since it's genitive, it's going to be of. So then the entirety of the translation from 3 to the ending where we're going to stop this video is, all things through him became, and without him became not one thing, which has become. In him life was, and the life was the light of the men. Now, coming back to here, originally I said we're not going to, but then we've got the article right there, so it's kind of begging for it. The two options for translating. We just went through our original option, in him life was. Now, if we translate it the way that this group would like us to translate this section, so treating these two the same way, which you should and can do in translating from one language into another, we actually end up with a sentence, a life. Now, personally speaking, that's not very encouraging. A life? Well, who gets the life? What exactly does that mean? If it's just life without an article, then it's life in general. Life for, the implication is life for all men. But if we only have a life for all men, there are some disturbing implications that could be drawn from that. So that's verses 3 and verses 4. We're going to stop the video right now. Our next video, we're going to be taking a look at 3 and 4 also in the Latin. After that, verses 5, Greek and Latin. Then finally, it's going to be video number 7. We're going to compare the two texts together. I hope going through these verses has been as useful to you as it has been to me, and I hope you have a good day.